Here real quick. Hopefully nothing has changed and everything's gonna work. Everything's working. I hope. Hello everyone and welcome back to another week. This is like week 3 out of the 6th month we've done this show of the WIGTT podcast. We are very bad at remembering to do this live. My name is Chris, and tonight with me I have, as usual, Nate Pick.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
And I have not started the background video.
You did?
Yeah. Nor have I muted it. There we go. Okay, so yeah, off to a rip-roaring start. You go ahead and say my bit at the beginning of the podcast as usual. We're not paying a lot of attention to the chat. At least I'm not. Nate doesn't have access to my phone is buzzing. Nate does not have access to his phone, so he's not watching the chat right now. But I'm not responding to the chat as frequently as I usually do, so I apologize. Anyways, WIGTT, we haven't done this in a while. We're back.
Yeah, I think the week before was your fault and the week after was my fault. So we're both to blame for this.
Yeah, it's been kind of all over the place, but hopefully we're gonna get back on track now. Everything is nice and peachy. Oh man, it did work. It's on a 5-minute loop. That little message is gonna pop up and give my rant for me. I love that, and I'm gonna forget to turn that on, and God forbid I ever start streaming again. It's gonna pop up forever. It's perfect. Anyways, that's just a rant on my end because of technology.
Oh, and by the way, we don't have any sponsors this week.
Yeah, there are no sponsors.
We're broke.
I'm not even drinking out of a logoed cup. I just have a generic steel tumbler.
Oh, mine's is worse. See this?
It sounds like noise.
Mine's just paper. Mine's a styrofoam cup.
I decided to get the noisiest receptacle. It's full of ice. So it's every time I move it around. I didn't even think about that until I'd already sat down. I didn't want to go find another glass.
Is it the Ozark one?
No, it's H2X. I don't know. I got it for Christmas.
Okay.
It's pretty good. I put ice in it this morning, and I haven't changed it out, so it's working pretty well.
Yeah, I have the Ozark one. The ice lasts for days in that sucker.
Yeah, they're pretty good. These little, this is absolutely not related to anything, but yeah, these little tumblers, they're pretty good. They're, I like them. They keep coffee really hot, too, because I've kept coffee in these before, and they're crazy.
One thing I found is interesting is whenever you have something hot, it actually takes a while for it to get cold.
Yeah.
But once it gets cold, it takes a while for it to get hot. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
And that whole technology is... Of course, we would be so there's talking about something that we can drink out of.
Yeah, of course. Gotta start off with the conversation about the drink receptacles. Man, I love some drinks. And of course, I've got tea in here, which makes it even better.
Oh, no, I got something better than that. Hold on. I got tonight is Hawaiian Punch.
Oh, man.
And it's a whole gallon.
Jeez. Oh, man.
So if I get dry out of this styrofoam cup, I got refills.
I should have done that. I've just been drinking. I made a giant gallon of tea the other day. I've just been drinking out of that all day. Just go in and refill. But yeah, that's a wonderful start.
But, well, we're going to break our mold this week. We actually have more than 3 tech news.
Yeah, we've got a bunch because we skipped some weeks. So there's been a lot of happenings in the world since then. A lot of cool stuff. So I've kept up with some of it. I recognize some of these things. Others I haven't really looked at. So I'm gonna be kind of interested to see where this all goes. Learn a little bit about technology today. I'm gonna put this over on this screen actually. I need another monitor.
And I gotta say, I am proud of myself. What these people don't realize, most of the time, I put the news up and then that's it because I make the post. I actually put links this time so Chris can just copy and paste it to his description.
Yeah, a long time ago when we did the Brewcast, the podcast I did probably 2 years ago now. I was really good about keeping a running tab of all the links, and I had a big link dump in a Google Doc in the description. I just have not done that at all since I got back into podcasting. I haven't. It's you're all on your own for that. We find these links, I just never click on them or find something to bring them up with. So it's wonderful.
Yeah,
it's wonderful.
So I guess moving into the first one, Intel buys AMD graphics, or possibly not.
Yeah, what's up with that? I actually haven't clicked on any of these links, which I probably should.
There has been rumors for about 2 years now that, of course, NVIDIA and Intel has a lawsuit currently going. It's still going. And people were saying that because Intel has a certain, I forget exactly what it's called, but they have a certain graphics license agreements with NVIDIA.
Mm.
Well, that just expired on the 17th.
Huh.
Well, March 17th, should I say? It's
Yeah.
expired on the March 17th. People are saying that they actually made a license agreement with AMD, and then you have other websites that are saying that absolutely not, there has been no agreement. So we have a lot of conflicting sites, and I put the links in both sites. One is saying that they have, one saying that they didn't. What's interesting is AMD fell quite a ways. If you remember a couple of days back, they fell quite a bit. Now they gain 12% all of a sudden. And we had there's no clue what's going on. Both companies are saying that it's not the case. Intel saying that it's not really the case. But they haven't also not said no.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. They're
Yeah,
like
I
being
get
very
what you're
hazy
talking
about
about, and I don't know. I haven't really looked too much into this, but I get what you're talking about. I read about the licensing agreements and whatnot, so I'm kind of interested to see where this is going to go as a whole, because this is, I don't know. And with the whole they haven't said no thing, it makes that even harder to look at. As a lot of times in PR, one of the common practices is it's better just not to say anything, or not to say no at all. So it's I don't know. Like I said, I haven't looked into it, but from what I've heard,
here's I'm gonna play. I guess it's not really the devil advocate, but I'm gonna say that they're not going to, because we've known that for years that if you wanted the best out of an Intel chip, you buy NVIDIA graphics cards because they work well with each other.
Yeah.
AMD has pretty much had their own thing going for a long time, including the graphics and the CPUs. And with everything that all the game developers are going, they're going into this, the Vulkan, and they're going into these DirectX games, the DirectX 12, and come to find out that AMD cards perform better in certain games, and NVIDIA, performs like most people think NVIDIA will.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's one of those it's one of those that it could be the actual case because AMD's cards look like the future, but at the same time, I don't see AMD giving out any of their technology.
Yeah, I don't see anything like that just because I've been following AMD and all that pretty closely the last few months, and they're making a huge comeback. I can't think of any reason they'd have to turn around and hand that back to Intel, hand any kind of advantage like that back over to Intel. So I don't know. Like, I'm trying to figure out my microphone situation here. Please bear with me while I do this. I hate this. I need to get my lavalier microphone set up going. But I don't know what's going on, and I don't know. I don't see anything coming of this. I don't see what reason there would be for AMD to sell out to Intel. One of the big reasons being, Intel's held such a monopoly. If AMD sold out to Intel, that would be a full monopoly. They've held a very large market share, but holding the entire market share, that is straight up monopoly. So I don't know.
Well, my only deal is and the reason why I say it could be a possibility is the fact that it's just licensing for Radeon graphics.
Right.
Which, to be honest, Intel has needed a good graphics chipset, even on their CPUs, because they have the integrated graphics, but they're terrible. They're horrible.
Really, Intel hasn't, at least from what I've seen, Intel really hasn't pushed the integrated graphics in the last few years. No. A lot of the boards they're selling now don't even have HDMI or DVI on them. I think mine doesn't even have HDMI or DVI or VGA or any of that. USB-C is the only thing I can think. I think USB-C will do graphics, but other than that, no. It's been, I don't know.
Well, it's technically still there, but the only problem is that it's it's interesting because technically integrated graphics are there, but they're terrible. They're only like for business sense. That's it. The Radeon graphics on the AMD APUs, if you're actually matching the APU versus the Intel CPU, that APU is going to beat it in games because it has actual Radeon graphics.
AMD's integrated graphics has always been pretty decent. I wouldn't say it's been perfect, But for many years, I had an old HP desktop with integrated graphics, and I used that for probably 2 years before I got a graphics card. And I mean, it wasn't the best. I wasn't at like 1080p 60 FPS, but for what I needed it for, it worked pretty well. But compared to Intel's integrated graphics, blows it out of the water. Intel's integrated graphics has always been kind of garbage. I mean, it's been the running butt of jokes in the PC community for years.
I had the A8 6600K, and that APU with Skyrim would play at high settings at 30 frames per second. Which, yes, that's not the greatest thing, but still, it would play Skyrim, which was extremely hardware abusive, I could say, back in the day. But yeah, I don't know. This rumor is kind of, it's one of those that's kind of up in the air, and I'm going to say no, they didn't sell, because I think AMD's pulling out, and they're actually making headway, so there's no reason for them to do that.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you. Let me see. Well, I'm trying to remember what the specs were on this HP that I had. I'm trying to pull it up right now, but I didn't even have it up on there. But yeah, I mean, Intel's integrated graphics. That's the only thing I could see them pushing if they were to buy out AMD or Radeon at least. Because I mean, like I said, there's no reason for them to sell out. AMD is gaining market share again. They're gaining a great amount of market share right now, especially pushing Ryzen and Vega. So, I don't know if I could see that through as an actual thing happening. So anyway,
ready for the next one?
Yeah, we can transition straight from talking about AMD moving up thanks to Vega Frontier Edition. New graphics cards announced this week or last week, one of the weeks that happened recently. I did not mean to open that button or press that button.
It's this week, I believe.
But I think it was this week. I know it's sometime between the podcasts. Yeah, AMD announces the Frontier Edition graphics cards. Basically, Vega. It's finally been announced.
Yeah, which to take into account the Radeon Vega series, the Frontier Edition is just pro level. That's it. And they held a conference the other day, which that Raja Kadori, I believe is his name. It's hard to pronounce his name. He came out and specifically said, listen, yes, technically the Frontier will play video games, of course, because it's Radeon Vega. It will do it well at 4K. But I'm telling you, wait until the actual gaming edition of Vega comes out.
Yeah.
And when you're looking at this graphics cards down at the bottom, it shows some of the compute units. 64. I mean, it has 25 teraflops of compute performance.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy.
Let me see. I'm trying to find videos for it, and I can't find anything. But yeah, it looks like a pretty solid beast, but it's not mainly for gaming. It's kind of like how what's the one we're always ranting about, the Titans. They can be used for gaming, but for the most part, they're used for business-related things like render farms and stuff like that. So,
well,
I don't know.
We also have.
It's nice to hear something about Vega, though. It's finally kind of starting to push.
Well, here's the interesting part. I'm interested in HBM too, because I'm sorry. I will call out everybody that says that the Fury X was a flop. It was not.
Oh no, it wasn't
at
all. I still to this day don't know where people are getting off calling that a flop. That is
it wasn't. Because here's the thing: if people will take that card right now and use the current graphics drivers right now, that Fury X beats the crap out of a 980.
Oh yeah, the Fury, in my opinion, is definitely one of the best, most underrated cards out there right now. It's a fantastic card, even today, and it holds up with the HBM. It really does hold up. It's a very solid card. I was kind of disappointed when a lot of people were out there saying that it was a flop. So
Yeah, it wasn't. The thing is, it was a groundbreaking technology that
yeah,
took time to grow.
it was,
Which
well,
what's
I think
interesting.
the big thing that came out with it was, at the time, that was at the time where the big jump in RAM was going up to 8 GB. Every new top of the line card had 8 GB. That one came out with
Mhm.
4, and not a lot of people. It wasn't widely advertised outside the tech community. It was not widely advertised that was HBM. Most people looked at that and said, well, it's only got 4 gigs of RAM. Oh, look at AMD, her. They didn't realize it was HBM. I saw a couple of people comment on it about it on a couple of forums, but for the most part, it was just like, well, the 980 has 8 GB of RAM, and the Fury only has 4. Why should I not pick up the 980? It's got more power. So I think a little bit better advertisement, and this is something I can say time and time again for everything AMD related. A little bit better advertisement, a better advertisement would have gone a very long way. And I think they're doing a fantastic job about this with Ryzen and Vega. They are actually coming out there advertising about it, and they're getting a lot more press than previous releases have. And I think that's a big part of their whole rebranding thing they're going through right now.
Well, one thing that I liked is whenever they done the split of the company, they separated
Yeah.
the AMD CPU division, AMD GPU division. This proves that the GPU division, yes, Vega's taken a while to come out, but you got to understand it's got HBM2. HBM2 is not easy to make.
No.
It's not easy to process.
Yeah.
It is a very complicated part, but he's coming out and they're allowed to say to us, listen, this card's coming out, but it's for deep learning. I'm telling you, just wait until the actual game in Vega comes out. And you're sitting there like, okay, if this one's freaking awesome, what is the gaming GPU fixing to do?
Yeah.
So, I'm kind of excited about it.
Yeah, I'm willing to wait. I don't know. People have gotten so impatient with this kind of thing. NVIDIA comes out every year with a new card, but the thing about NVIDIA cards is it's always like, well, it's up a couple more gigahertz and it's got more RAM. Which, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but every year they come out with a new thing and everyone's looking at them like, well, look at NVIDIA. Look what they've done. They're able to put out a new card every year. This is much like Ryzen. They're working on a whole new architecture. They're working on a whole new platform with the HBM2 memory. And I think this is definitely good. And this is something that AMD has taken risks with experimental technology or experimenting with things outside the norm before. And they definitely shot themselves in the foot with it, looking back, 10, 15 years when they switched over they decided to focus on multi-core instead of single-core performance. That was a risk and it didn't pay off. But I think if they do HBM2 right, if they actually execute this properly, then they will end up winning a large amount of the market share because HBM2 is very, very good memory over DDR.
Oh yeah.
So if they're able to pull this off, and from what I've heard so far and what I've seen, it looks like they're going to do it. If they can pull this off, they will do very well.
Well, and here's what people need to understand: it's 16 gigabytes of high bandwidth cache, right? It's 480 gigabytes, not bits, gigabytes per second. That's as fast as an SSD.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah, I mean, it's
a whole lot faster than SSD. Actually, come think of it.
Yeah,
that's insane.
Yeah, it's solid. Like I said, I can't. I mean, I agree with you. I can't wait to see what they're going to do with the gaming cards because if this is what we're looking at right now for a business-related card, and they keep saying wait, just hold on, just wait, they're going to come at us with something good. And I'm really, really hoping that price range is the traditional AMD price to performance range because I will die happy then.
Oh yeah. Well, one thing that I'm really excited about because NVIDIA's done this limited 2 graphics cards on SLI.
Yeah.
I want to see what 3 of these would do.
Oh God.
With 4K.
You could probably do 8K at that point.
Saying?
Honestly, I mean it's crazy. But yeah, it's definitely, we're starting to build up. I think right now 4K or at least 1440 is starting to take off in 4K, and we finally reached a point where 1080p 60 FPS has been standard. So now everyone's looking at, well, what can we do with 1440p and 144 hertz? What can we do? Up and up and up, which is fantastic. I'm looking forward to it. I like gaming and smoothness and big screens.
I think a lot of people's been gaming and the starting to move up from out of 1080 into the 1440. But a lot of YouTubers, even though they have a gaming monitor for 1440, a lot of YouTubers are using 4K for video editing.
Yeah.
So to have a GPU like this that can process and render 4K footage, raw files extremely quick, I mean,
Yeah.
that's something that I'm interested in, and that makes me excited that if I do save up my money and I get a Ryzen, then I can also get the Vega. It's going to be an absolute beast. With that
Yeah.
being said, moving on into Ryzen, have you seen the Threadripper CPUs?
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's
This summer.
I don't know, everything with Ryzen, everything is it's gonna be interesting. They're coming up, and they're coming up very, very quickly. And I think they're on track right now to take. I've said it time and time again. They are very much on track right now to take over the industry and regain a lot of lost ground. And I hope they do, because this is going to do nothing but benefit everybody. So, and I hope along the way they're able to do it in a way that keeps the price down too. Yeah.
Well, the Ripper, to talk about it just a little bit, it's going to be the R9
Yeah.
CPU, I believe is what they're going to call it. And it's, I like the name. The actual name is Threadripper.
Yeah.
The Ryzen Threadripper.
Yeah.
I mean, that's amazing. I love that name. But it's going to offer 16 cores and 32 threads.
Yeah, it's got something like
let me-
1,400 pins or 14,000 pins on it or something like that. I mean, it's huge. I mean, it's not like it's double wide. We're talking here. It's a good sized processor. That's gonna be interesting.
The coolest thing I can think of right now is if you were to show up. Think about this for a second, because we all know that mini ITX boards are coming out and they're getting better. Could you imagine going up to a LAN party and pop out a Ryzen build and you're like, oh yeah, you got a R7? No, I got an R9, 16 cores and 32 threads.
Oh man.
On one CPU. Here's the deal. I have two Intel CPUs. I need a server motherboard that would give me 16 cores and 32 threads. This is one CPU that is going to be for gaming as well. That's insane.
Yeah. Man. It's going to be interesting. I mean, they're coming out just all punches. They're taking nothing back. There was some skepticism for the R3 line, but every single thing, everybody's loved the Ryzen so far. It's been, on par, if not better in some respects than Intel. I know I've said it before, a lot of people have complained about the gaming performance, but a lot of the first gens of this, in every other respect, they beat out Intel. So, it's great. It's wonderful.
Well, I understand why people were worried about the i3, or not the i3, but the R3.
R3s.
I'm not worried about it because, and I'll tell you why. If you think about it, what was most of your business desktops? They were like Pentiums.
Yeah.
The old Intel Pentiums, and they were all Dells. If they can get HP or Dell to be like, you know what, we want these R3s because they're good CPUs, they'll do exactly what we need for business. Well, I mean, there's your profit margin right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because Dell's going to make a ton of.
Yeah, they definitely need something like that, because AMD, in terms of pre-builds, is certainly lacking. I see it from time to time, but it's always one of those things that either I've tried to avoid or it's just not that great. Because I mean, I've had AMD CPUs in two pre-builds right now. I've had one in a laptop, and it was all right. It was kind of garbage. It overheated a lot. There was nothing great about it. I had it in a desktop, and it was all right. But other than that, you don't see a lot of pre-builds with AMD cores in them, at least ones with good performance. So something with Ryzen in it that's able to do, as Ryzen does, I think that'll be phenomenal. So, because you got to realize, I mean, these aren't just cores for people who are building. These are people who are looking at these for business. People are looking at these for servers, all kinds of crazy stuff like that. So,
well, and I want the people to realize. I know that the past few episodes we've talked constantly about Ryzen. There's a reason for that. Okay, I'm not a fanboy. I like AMD as a company, but I'm not a fanboy. And the fact of the matter is, if we're going to see Intel get a kick in the butt and start moving better CPUs out, AMD is going to have to do it. And they're going to have to be the ones that tell them, listen, if you're going to sit here and just water in this same architecture for 9 years, well, we got some new architecture. We're working on another one, and we're going to move ahead of you. So that competition is good. We need this. This is what we needed for a long time.
Yeah, it's a lot of people that are going to complain about people talking about this constantly, not just on this podcast, but on a lot of podcasts. You don't really realize how long it's been that Intel has been in control of the market. I mean, AMD, if you go back, 10, 20 years, AMD was up there just as big as Intel. And now we're finally looking at a comeback. And that means, like I said before, that means that we are going to see greater benefits for the people. We're going to see both companies working to push better products at lower prices to better the market. We're going to be seeing quicker advancements. This is what we need right now. There's been a lull for about the past 10 years in advancements, and we've seen some great advancements in terms of processing power and speed, but not anywhere near what it could have been if AMD had never fallen off the train. Whether that was because they decided to focus on single core performance like Intel, or whether they actually did do multi-core correctly, we would be probably a lot further along today than we are now. So it's important.
Well, another thing to think of is a lot of people don't realize is whenever a lot of times we can't afford new CPUs and new motherboards and new GPUs and that stuff. The thing is, if the competition is moving, all that old hardware that is still very relevant and still really good is just going to go down in price.
Right, yeah.
Because people are going to be buying this new stuff, and they're trying to just get rid of what they have, sell it off, and then add to it to get another CPU. So, you could get... I think the other day I seen an i7 4790K is what it was. I seen it for $200.
Yeah.
$200.
Yeah,
it's still a relevant CPU.
Yeah, they AMD, and I said this before, I'll say it again. If AMD's graphics cards age very, very well, Intel's processors age better than any other processor out there. The old i5s, go 2-3 generations back, the ones that came out in the early 2010s, they're still kicking trading blows with the ones that came out today. They're still doing very good. I know a lot of people that are... you're still back on that old i7. That was late 2000s, wasn't it? They still kick.
Yeah.
They still kick very well. But I'm hoping that Ryzen has the longevity of the Intel processors for sure. That's going to benefit them a lot because AMD's graphics cards have always been bulletproof. I've got an R9 290 from... that's early 2010s. It's still kicking.
To be honest with you, I think Ryzen will even show more longevity because if you think about it, think about how long they still sold the 6300, the FX 6300. Think about how long and some people are still buying that CPU. Granted, it's used market now, but still, they're buying that CPU.
I think they're still manufacturing them. So, they're still solid chips. I had one of those. There was absolutely nothing wrong with that chip. I just needed more power for what I do, but for just general gaming and playing around on your computer, the 6300 was a very solid chip. I think it was certainly one of the more underrated chips out there. So,
and plus how high you could overclock them too. Some of them got quite a ways up there.
Yeah, those ones, I never overclocked mine, but I read a lot of reports of people getting up, 4 or 5 gigahertz. So they're good.
My A8 6600K, when I overclocked it, it went up to 4.5 gigahertz.
Yeah,
and that was overclocked. It stopped turboing it at 3.8.
Huh.
So that tells you how much it overclocked.
Yeah, I still need to check out some overclocking stuff. I still haven't. I want to play around a little bit on my i5, but I haven't really touched it yet. I wanted to do it with my FX just for fun, but I ended up selling it before I had the chance to. So I might have to check that out.
I'm telling you, overclocking will release more. You'll actually notice that your system runs a whole lot smoother once you get a stable overclock. And you'll notice if you ever render a video or anything like that, it's so much faster. So much faster to
Yeah.
export and all that stuff.
Yeah, I've been kind of interested in doing it lately just to do it. You know, I got I went out of my way a little bit to get the K series so I can overclock, and I've got I got a Hyper 212 Evo, which is one of the best the air cooling systems to overclock with. So I want to fiddle around with that a little bit and see if I can get some more out of my processor pretty soon. So I might check that out soon enough. Especially I've started doing more 1080p streaming stuff. I think that could definitely help with that.
Oh yeah. So you want to move to the next topic?
Yeah, let's move on. What did I do with the Word document? Oh man, we have. Oh yeah, that's this last week. Very hard for anybody to ignore if you pay any bit of attention to the news. This last week or two, we've been dealing with the WannaCry ransomware virus that's been going around the world recently, locking down people's computers. And this is actually something I paid a fair bit of attention to. I believe they've been asking for $300 in bitcoins to unlock the computers. And today, actually, there was a development in that. I forget exactly who, but there was a official decrypting software was released to decrypt your files. So worry not if you've been hit with the virus.
Yeah. What is happening is to people that don't understand what WannaCry does, when it attacks it's a worm. It's an actual worm, and you don't even have to click on a site or anything. If you're plugged into the internet, it actually goes out and searches for computers that are unprotected.
Yeah.
For IPs that are unprotected, and it's an exploit that was that the NSA done to get into people's computers.
Yeah.
And which is another reason why we need to get rid of them. That's beside the point. I'm not going to get political, but anyways, I mean that's really what's happened.
Yeah.
And so it goes in and it will literally encrypt all your files and then demand that you pay this amount to get the key. The problem is you're not guaranteed to get the key.
Yeah.
They could get the money, but unless they actually send it back to you, they're not going to do it. But yeah, you are correct. They did release a decrypting code. I believe it was yesterday.
It was either yesterday or today. I read the article about it today. I don't remember if it was yesterday or today. Yeah. It was recently that they released it. But yeah, that's scary. One of the things that actually I started doing my summer courses already, and one of the first things we showed, I've got a class. He said, "All right, I'm gonna show you how to lock down your router so this will never happen to you." And I mean, they've already identified down to the port and everything how to shut this thing down. So everybody needs to go out there and make sure their computers are protected, you know, whether that's just having a decent antivirus or, you know, if you want to go even as far as looking up online how to lock down your router to prevent this kind of thing from happening. It's scary, and this definitely shows how unprepared we are for some kind of cyber attack. And I think people need to look at this kind of thing more seriously, especially with how much of our information is stored online. And one of the things, you know, I don't think a lot of people realize exactly how much this can affect. Looking through Reddit, I saw everything being affected by this. I saw cars with the WannaCry thing on it. I saw ATMs, you know. It's like, this is why we need to start focusing on cybersecurity. This is why we need to start locking down our computers. This is why we need to start paying attention to this kind of thing. So,
well, one thing that this has done, and trust me, I do have the Creator Update running because I updated everything.
Yeah.
So I'm telling everybody, even though you don't like the Creator Update, trust me, I get it. I don't like Microsoft the way they're doing their updates, but I'm telling you right now, to prevent you from this actually happening, because if you don't update, this could still happen to you. I'm telling you right now, go update your computers.
Yeah.
Get all the security updates done, because this is important. Even though there is a patch, the only problem is it could be a while before yours actually gets fixed.
Yeah.
So
yeah, go out and update your systems right now.
I
very begrudgingly updated all my computers, you know, just because I value my data. You know, I'm very well versed in network security. It's the field of IT that I want to go into, but at the same time, I'm willing to take a step back and say, okay, this is important. I will bite the bullet and update, you know, and luckily I haven't had that much trouble with it. But it's one of those things, just do it. So yeah, one of the things that did come out of this, which is kind of funny, is Microsoft actually pushed an update to Windows XP because of this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's how
Well,
bad this is, and that also kind of shows how bad it is that this many computers are still running XP. A lot of these are business legacy users; they're just too cheap to
yeah.
upgrade.
Well, a lot of them are still overseas companies. That's all they have
Yeah,
access to because it's all the U.S. will allow for to be released.
yeah,
There's
it's
some countries that are not allowed to have 64-bit operating systems. So the
yeah,
only operating system they can have is the Microsoft XP 32-bit.
yeah. It
And
kind
so
of
I mean,
yeah.
yeah,
Looking
it's
at that
just
stuff, I've talked about it before. I wish they. It sounds weird, but I really wish they'd have just kept modernizing XP, just updated it and kept it up to date
yeah.
with maybe even a 64-bit version. Because XP to this day is whenever everybody loved XP. Hell, I'd still use it if I could use all of my programs with it. There was nothing wrong with XP. It's just so out of date that nothing worked for it. Baseline at the end of it,
Yeah.
there's a lot of companies out there with software that still runs XP, but that's because they're using ancient dinosaur software. So
Yep.
it's
Well, and one thing I find important, um, a lot of people don't realize with XP is that it was one of the first operating systems that actually became universal. There
yeah,
hasn't been an operating system that's been so universal. Now, bear in mind, Apple technically done that, but Apple is also locked to Apple,
yeah, it's
whereas
yeah. XP
Microsoft
XP is all
released
over
everything.
everything. Yeah, there's going
Yep.
back, there were ATMs. There's stuff like all kinds of stuff. I think I've seen a lot more recently. Linux is starting to become more universal, at least on not like ATM platforms, different platforms that used to be things you wouldn't think of having Windows on them.
Yep.
I'm trying to think of the name for that kind of thing is eluding me right now. Just non-home computer platforms is starting to use more things, and I think that's more the rise of
Well,
Raspberry Pis and stuff like that. But there's universal platforms. Yeah, I agree. Windows XP has completely been unmatched. I think to this day it's still one of the most installed operating systems. So
well, for example, if you think about it, if you think about it right now, even back in the day, whenever Windows 7 was out, a lot of the tablets still came out with Windows XP.
yeah,
They didn't come out with Windows 7.
yeah,
So that tells you how long the operating system lasted. So and I will say this WannaCry malware has absolutely kind of kicked Microsoft in the rear
yeah,
and absolutely made Microsoft ticked off with the
yeah.
NSA to the point that they're talking about doing a lawsuit and bringing them before Congress because they said you should have told us about this a long time ago.
Yeah,
And you
that kind of
didn't.
security vulnerability is certainly something that the company should be made aware of. And that's actually, I saw one of the
Yeah.
articles I read was praising Tim Cook for not giving in to the FBI and giving them the backdoor
No.
access because that's the exact same thing that caused the wannabe virus. I don't think any
Yep.
Macs have been, as far as I'm aware, haven't been affected by this, or at least iOS devices. Because I've seen
Well,
that and that's as much as I'm not an Apple person, I have a lot of respect for Tim Cook for that decision and standing his ground on that because this is the exact reason that kind of thing should not be done. I went to people that I know who were very much pro FBI, give them access, and I was like, see, this is why we need to lock down cybersecurity. This is not about just if you have nothing to hide, what do you have to fear? This is we could lose information. We live in the information age. We need to be more wary of cybersecurity. This is something everybody should be on because this is something that affects every person.
Yeah.
No
Well,
matter how anti-technology you are, either everything you do revolves around technology today.
Yeah, it does. Well, and another thing is and I'm like I said, I'm not going to get political, but this is big government overstepping its boundaries.
Yeah.
Because they should have just told the company
This is
that, hey,
something
this
that
is
every
something
single
that's being
person.
used.
This is something that every
And
single
you're
person
like,
can agree
are you
with.
serious?
No matter what your political, whatever your political beliefs are, this is overstep. This is absolutely overstepping its boundaries. The debate to whether or not they should be spying on people is up to a different discussion. But whether they should make the companies, the company's software that they are looking at and using for spying, Microsoft should absolutely have been made aware of this. I have no
Yes.
question about that. I understand the NSA wants to keep things on the down low, and it's to prevent panic and craze. And like I said, it goes back to, should the NSA be spying on people as a whole entirely different nut to crack, and I don't feel like talking about it today. But in
No.
regardless, the NSA absolutely should have told Microsoft that they were doing this, because this could have prevented this. And this is part of this. I mean, it shut down entire parts of the NHS in the UK. People died because of
Yep.
this. They couldn't access the computers.
Yep.
This has been, I mean, this is literally people's lives were lost because of this, because of the NSA's decision to not alert Microsoft of this. That is absolutely unnecessary, and that is something that they should certainly face some kind of repercussion for.
Well, to be honest, I do hope in the U.S. side, I do hope this goes to Congress, and I wouldn't be mad if they got rid of them completely, the whole entire division,
the NSA
because
has
it's
been,
ridiculous.
And not to get too political, I understand the need, and I understand there's a lot of fear. I mean, the whole point of the NSA is to prevent attacks and prevent danger to U.S. citizens, but in the process, that does erode a lot of our privacy. That does. If it wasn't for the fact that they were so secretive about everything, if it wasn't for the fact that they are secretly spying on everyone, I wouldn't have this many problems. I mean, I'd still have a problem if they came out tomorrow and said, okay, this is how we spy on everybody. I get why they have to do it, but I don't agree with their methods at all. I don't think that the way they're doing things is great, and I certainly think that they should be either drastically changed or shut down.
Well, here's something. I'm just going to throw this out there. Like I said, I'm not going to get political about it. I'm just going to ask a question, and you can answer very simply, yes or no, or something like that. What is wrong with having the military using their force? Because the Air Force is already doing that in the background. They're already going out and trying to find cyber attacks. That's part of their job. What's wrong with that?
I have no problem with it. I mean, I think that we need a cybersecurity division, a hard nail cybersecurity division of the government. That is something we absolutely need. There's absolutely no reason in this day and age not to have something like that. I've said it before, I said it again, we live in the information age. Every single thing we do has something to do with the computer. This is necessary. Yep. This is coming from someone, cybersecurity is definitely important. People's lives are on the line because of this. If another attack like this were to happen, I mean, we've already seen the damage it can cause. This was something that took place over about a week and a half. This was absolutely avoidable. We really need, and I really hope what this attack does is it wakes a lot of people up and makes them realize we need to make some changes. We need to work on the infrastructure. We need to work on improving the cybersecurity for not just the United States, but for the entire world, because this didn't just affect us. This affected everybody. This was a worldwide attack. So,
well, hopefully this will also wake up the IPs.
Yeah,
because we've been needing the IPs updated for, like, was it going on 10 years now?
Yeah.
Well, this this needs to be updated. Everything needs to be updated. And for example, there's one particular topic that we'll talk about at the end that I'm excited about, but hopefully this will also wake up a lot of companies. But yeah, the IP addresses. I mean, yeah, you could get a VPN, but it slows it down.
Yeah.
There needs to be an update to the internet. There has been for
and that's one of the things they're kind of trying to do with IPv6, but it's not enough.
No, it's not.
We need an entire infrastructure overhaul of the internet and how everything works. And it's in our current political climate, I don't think it's going to happen, because this is something that will have to be done politically. As much as I hate to do it, as much as I hate to say it, as much as I hate having the government involved in anything regarding the internet needs an overhaul. The way the infrastructure works needs to be changed in order to benefit all of us, for everything to work. And that is something, it's going to be very hard to do. It's going to take a while, but we need to figure it out. So,
yeah, which kind of moving to the next one, AMD Raven Ridge Zen APUs supposed to be coming out pretty soon, actually.
Yeah,
find out.
AMD's, if they're able to improve greatly upon their APUs, that's great, because that's been that was the big thing. Multi-core APU has been a big thing they've been pushing recently, recently over the past decade or so, and they've been not terrible, but not great at the same time. There is a lot of room for improvement upon them. I think that now they're working, if they can get it to cohesively work with Ryzen, with a Ryzen edition, I think that would be fantastic. So,
Well, it's supposed to have the. I know it has a Zen architecture, so it will have somewhat Ryzen in it. The only thing is, what I feel like they need to be able to, if they were able, and I'm going to probably repeat myself twice, but if they're able to put a Ryzen CPU, like an 8-core CPU with 16 threads, and even put an older, the Fiji chip
yeah.
in it. Now we have DDR4. Just open up the GPU to where it can use more of the DDR4 memory, and I think what will happen, you'll have a solid just media streaming and light gaming home theater setup.
Yeah.
And that's what they need to go for. I feel like the APU's on the right track. It's just they need to redirect it and not say, well, this is for gaming.
Yeah.
Say, listen, this is for home theater. This is for light gaming. You know, you're sitting at home, you turn it on, you're in the living room, you got the big TV.
Yeah.
You can plug it in.
That's
and do
always
some
been what the AMD APUs have been best suited for, whether or not AMD wants to admit that. But they've always done very well for that kind of thing, for light gaming, for media and stuff like that. And I very much hope that they are able to market it as that. They need to market Ryzen, the R7s, the R9s, the R5s. They need to market all that toward gaming and workstations and servers and whatnot. And they need to market their APUs toward the people, the APUs, and I'd say probably the R3 series, toward people who just want to make media machines, or people who want to make even light servers, stuff like that. Not gaming, not intensive things, because at that point, that's just kind of bad advertising.
Yeah. And like we'll just have to see what happens with the advertisement, because technically it's not coming out yet, but it is coming soon to coming out. But here's my thing: if they're going to advertise it on the GPU market, I think it would be smarter, because their GPU market is strong.
Yeah,
it's solid, and the way that team works is really good.
Yeah.
If it's on the CPU market, technically they've done a good job with Ryzen, but I mean they had a terrible start, horrible start.
Yeah,
so it's just.
I'm glad it recovered, but yeah, I agree. It's had a rough start, but I agree. I think their GPU lineup has always been their most solid point, or at least over the last 10, 15 years. It's been the most solid point, and I think if they're able to advertise, it goes back to what I was saying earlier, advertising. If they can finally nail down their advertising, they will be golden. They really will, because they need to get the word out there to more than just tech people that AMD is a very reliable company for processors. You ask within the tech community, everyone's going to tell you, oh yeah, Ryzen's great. You ask every day, Billy Bob Beer Can, he's going to sit there and say, well, I don't know, Intel's what I've always had in my computer. And that's, if they're able to get out there and just push TV commercials, push YouTube commercials, push Facebook posts or whatever weird articles are the thing that are all the new rage nowadays. That's the kind of thing that needs to be out there.
Well, and I think we talked about this last podcast, if I'm not mistaken. And I said this, and what I said is AMD needs to become a household word. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows i7.
Yeah.
So now they need to make R7. And
yeah, they need to make I think they've struck gold by deciding to go with the R series. Everything's R5, R3, R9. I think that's the best way to go, because that's just a step down the block from the I series. People, it's easy to think. It's easy to think that way. It's easy to remember. And I think that I agree. If they manage to make it a household name like the iCore series has become, they will do very well.
Oh yeah, I think it will. I think it will help with a lot of things that people, because we've heard it from Best Buy for years. We've all heard this.
Yeah.
Oh, if it's i7, it's for gaming. No, it's not. It's for productivity.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? Zen is the exact same way.
Yeah.
Ryzen is the exact same way. It is for productivity. It is for some major productivity. And I think that's what they need. They need to just become a household name. When people walk into Best Buy, they're like, "What's the best laptop?" And they're like, "Here's the R7. It's in a laptop.
Yeah.
One of the best things you can ever have." That's what they need.
And I think if they, and this is kind of a different point. I was talking about laptops. If they're able to, that's one of the best things about Ryzen is they finally figured out cooling. They figured out how to keep it cool enough.
Yep.
AMD chips and laptops have been just absolutely horrible. Every single one I've ever
Yes.
had, every single one I've ever seen, it sounds like a jet engine when you turn it on because that fan is constantly running full blast. They don't stay cool. They've never stayed cool. They've finally figured out how to make a cool processor. And that is exactly what they needed. And they really need to push in the laptop market because that's where it's at. Outside of workplaces, I know a lot of people who don't even own a desktop. They haven't owned a desktop in years. They own tablets and they own laptops because that's the way technology is moving. And if AMD is able to embrace that, and they're able to move forward with Ryzen as not primarily, not necessarily primarily, but if they're able to push forward with a bulk of their product being laptop based, that is one of the big ways they're going to get their name back out there. Because people look for laptops, people don't look for desktops anymore. Most of the people that, that's why I think that's why building desktops has taken off so much over the last year or so, or not even just the last year, the last few years, is because most everyone who buys a desktop now is buying it for gaming. They're buying it for, server hosting, stuff like that, because the average everyday Billy Bob beer can is going to get a laptop for what he needs or she needs.
Right. Well, here's an interesting thing that they have already proven that you can take the Polaris chips, the full GPU, and stick it in a laptop, and it will work fine because the wattage is not very. It doesn't require a lot of power.
Wattage is another big thing because power draw is always kind of sucked on AMD laptops.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing: if that's the case, if they're able to keep the wattage down on Vega, could you imagine walking into Best Buy and like, here's $2,000. I want the Ryzen 7, the Ryzen 7 with the Vega GPU.
Yeah.
In a laptop, and you're done. You're set. Technically, you could hook in multiple monitors, and you're done.
Oh yeah.
You don't have to go buy a desktop. Nothing.
Yeah, and that's another big thing is workstation laptop. The workstation laptop setup is becoming a huge thing. I have a friend of mine who works in media, and he's got a huge workstation. He's got like 3 monitors set up on his desk, and all he does, he gets home, he plugs an HDMI thing into his laptop, and boom, he's got a 3 monitor, 4 monitor setup, all from a laptop. I think he's got an i5, and it works perfectly fine. That's how a lot of people are doing it nowadays. And for stuff like that, I don't blame him. Gaming laptops still have a good little ways to come, but as far as productivity in general, laptops are becoming the way to go. And if AMD is able to hit the nail on the head right there with that, I think they'll do very well.
Well, even if they don't have a very powerful GPU, even if they put like a 460 in there, right? Even with the 460, if they're still able to put a Ryzen 7 full desktop CPU in there and have it lightweight, portable, the cooling will be fine, they would make a ton of money because there are a lot of content creators. They're not looking for gaming. People like me, I'm looking for something that's portable.
Yeah.
To edit on. Exactly.
Yeah.
I can sit down somewhere, edit real quick, and boom, take off.
Yeah, that's what I love about. I've got a laptop with an i7 in it, and it's perfect for that kind of thing. I can game on it, kind of. Low end games I can game on it, but if you sit down with Sony Vegas, you sit down with Adobe Premiere or something like that, it absolutely destroys it. It's perfect for editing anything. And that's really what a lot of people are looking. A lot of the people that buy laptops and stuff like that now are looking for that kind of thing. That's why there was a lot of controversy when the MacBook took away the SD card port and all the other ports for it, was because of the fact that a lot of people that use laptops are content creators. They need this kind of thing, and having a strong processor in there, it's definitely going to benefit it.
Yeah. Well, another thing, even if let's say if you bought a laptop that has a Skylake i7 and you have a Radeon Polaris GPU, a lot of people don't realize that OS X is actually compatible with Polaris GPUs.
Yeah.
So you could actually install OS on that laptop, and you would be able to have Final Cut Pro if that's your speed. But you will have a better laptop than. I'm sorry, the MacBook is terrible.
Yeah.
I've used it.
I know a couple people.
I've done a new touchpad.
Yeah,
hate it.
Yeah, I've never been wild, but I understand Mac. I understand why people like it. It's very simplistic, but it's just not my speed. I've never cared for it.
Nope.
Yeah, I'm kind of iffy on it, and I as just the way I am, I'd never own a MacBook, especially the newer ones, that they're taking away all the damn ports off of it. But there's nothing about it
I
that
will tell
appeals
you,
to me that I can't get on a Windows laptop.
I will tell you right now, there is if OS was to do this, if Apple was to do this, if they were to support DirectX
Yeah.
and Vulkan, okay, even if they didn't support DirectX, if they
Yeah.
supported Vulkan, there's a lot of game companies that would be able to transfer all their codecs to Vulkan,
Yeah.
release it for
Well,
the Mac,
yeah,
and
that's
if
one
they
of
were
the.
allowed the OS to be open
Yeah.
and go on any software or any hardware, should I say.
Yeah, I know that's one of the big problems with Mac is there's not a lot of games on it, just because of the fact they don't have a
Nope.
lot of support for that kind of thing. There's no DirectX or there's no Vulkan, and I'm kind of hoping they bite the bullet and take Vulkan, because that'll be even better for AMD, because Macs they're very popular. You know, they're not my favorite computers in the world, but they are popular. You cannot deny that at all. They certainly have popularity, and I think that would do very well for AMD if they were able to grapple onto that kind of thing. So I'm hoping that works to some extent.
Oh, and just to have some controversy on the tech talk, um, I hate to tell you, all you Apple fanboys and all you PC master race, Macs are PCs, the exact
Yeah.
same bloody hardware.
Yeah, it's the same
It's just
hardware. It's just
different
different
OS.
operating system. Yeah, it's I don't know. I don't know. I haven't been playing with Linux lately, so I'm not either.
Well, it's just like people want to tell me like, oh, I've got a Linux box.
Yeah,
So you have a PC. It's got
yeah.
Linux on it.
It's people have elitism toward operating systems, and I kind of get it. You know, all the operating systems have their advantages. You know, whether Mac has simplicity, Windows has being spied on by the NSA, Linux has complicatedness.
Windows has games.
Windows
and
has
possibly
all the
losing every bit of
programs
your
that you'll
hardware.
ever need, and Linux is just kind of there. And, we talked about it before. I've been playing around with Linux a little bit more. I've got I booted some virtual machines to play around, and I've said it before. I'll say it again. If they ever put a lot of the programs that I use, be it editing or gaming, on Linux, I would definitely consider going to Linux full time, because playing around with Mint and Ubuntu, they're very simple to figure out, and they're good operating systems, both of them. They just don't have the programs that I need.
Oh yeah. Well, and another thing that a lot of people don't realize with Linux is that Linux, a lot of coders use Linux
Yeah,
because you can almost code anything that you want on
Yeah.
Linux.
yeah,
Whereas Windows, there's some workarounds you got to do.
yeah.
With Linux, it's open source. Just open
Yeah.
it up and take off.
That is one thing I love about Linux, is you can do just about any. Well, in terms of customization and building stuff and programming and stuff like that, you can do a lot of things with Linux. Linux is very open, and I really appreciate that about it. It's a good operating system in that respect, certainly.
Oh yeah. So I want to move to the next one
Mhm.
that I personally want to talk about because this affects me. It's also a very sore subject with me, but it affects me. So SpaceX. Everybody knows SpaceX. They're launching
Space.
rockets, all this kind of stuff. Everything keeps blowing up. But they have officially been approved to start releasing the some satellites.
We're
And it's going to
space.
be
Yep, they
actual
have.
broadband satellites.
I think they actually
Yep.
have already launched the first satellite. I think I read about that today. They launched it, and so yeah, they're moving. It's happening.
Yep.
They're launching.
Now,
which is great.
they said 2019 will be the possible launch date for their new satellites that's supposed to be coming up. What it's going to do is they're going to try to launch, and get this. Think about this for a second. They're wanting to launch 4,425 broadband satellites.
Good God. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. That's that. I mean, yeah, that's more internet for everybody. That's good. I have no problems with that whatsoever.
Well,
And-
here's what will happen. You have your orbits, right?
Yeah.
You have your orbital planes. You've got space, then you have that little section, and then you've got the other section, then you have the atmosphere, whatever. I don't know all the actual terms.
Yeah.
But what they're going to do is they're actually going to release it into closer to the atmosphere. So the latency will actually only be 25 milliseconds.
Yeah, that's
compared to
good.
600.
And I can't think of a better company to do it than SpaceX. They've been doing fantastic things, and I'm absolutely 100% pro doing anything in space. Space is cool, but I think it's very good. The internet is very much becoming a basic resource or basic right, just like water and food and stuff like that
Yep.
is. Everyone's going to end up having access to it. And, going back to, this is the information age. We have all these wonderful technology powered by the internet. Now everybody's going to have access to the internet everywhere. I mean, especially people like you, middle of nowhere, relying on satellite internet. You've got to deal with bad satellite internet. Satellite internet's been, it's been growing. It's still very rough. I certainly,
It is.
having the option to choose between that and wired internet, I'm going to choose wired internet or, hardline internet every time. So I mean, it's good for people like you who can get that kind of thing. I'm definitely all for that.
Well, and one thing a lot of people don't realize now, I've been blessed in a way that my internet provider will actually allow me unlimited internet. The problem is it slows down.
Yeah.
After you hit a certain amount of gigs, it slows down. So I have to be very conscious of how much I use. Like if I wanted to stream, I have to wait until the first of the month because that's when my plan kicks back in. So technically, yeah, I have unlimited. It's great. I can watch Netflix and all this kind of stuff. But doing just content creation and trying to stream, I could do that once a month.
Yeah.
I feel like, I don't know about you. You probably can attest to this. Once you start streaming in a content creation type, you actually start growing.
Yeah, streaming is a fantastic way to grow. I have been doing it lately because I'm a horrible person, but it's I haven't been doing it a lot. But streaming is very fun. It's a very fun thing to do, and a lot of people, it's become the new thing. Everybody's doing it. Everybody and their mother's doing it. But there's a lot of people that want to watch it because, and I understand why. It's fun. It's direct interaction with content creators, and it's people just sitting around playing games or even doing whatever. Not necessarily just playing games, but just people messing around. It's fun. So data caps and that kind of thing, slow down internet's always kind of irritated me for that reason. It's stupid. It's pointless. It's just another way for the ISPs to control how much internet people use or the way they use it. So
yeah,
it's stupid. People are stupid.
But I will say I will give props to SpaceX. I know you've been blowing up crap here lately, and you still blow up a few things, but hey. If you're going to provide us with internet, I can forgive all of that.
Yeah, I'm glad to see that kind of thing going up. That's going to give a lot more support to SpaceX, and that's definitely what they need because like I said, I'm pro space. Let's go put all the stuff in space.
I think what will actually happen as well, and this will be because this is more kind of a U.S. problem. It's probably also a Canada problem as well. Is that the IPs here are so stinking crooked? They take all the government money that they're funded. And they don't do any kind of updates whatsoever. They just keep exactly with the same mess that they have.
Yeah.
So I think what will happen is if this were to come out, all these other little internet companies, including like AT&T, stupid jerks.
Yeah.
It's a sore subject with me. But anyways, people like them, they will understand that, if we're going to beat these guys, we have better laid fiber. Yeah, and we better not just do it in the cities. We better do it everywhere. One of
the things that makes me angriest, and I actually thought of another topic that we're gonna have to talk about, but one of the things that makes me angriest is I don't remember exactly what city. I think it's some city in Tennessee put down fiber. It was the city put down fiber internet. I want to say it was Memphis, but I'm probably wrong about that. Put down fiber internet for everybody in the city. It was just a low flat rate. Everybody gets gigabit internet, and AT&T sued the city for doing that. Or maybe it was Comcast, but one of these big ISPs sued the city for doing that, saying that they had the right to do it instead of the city. And I've seen that happen a lot. Like I said, going back, it's becoming a basic right for people to have. And there's a lot of small local governments that are trying to do something to improve it. But every time they try to do something, the ISPs turn around and shoot them for it. It's the ISPs have become such more of a danger to the people on the internet than the people in the internet have.
Yep. Well, and here's I know this is what you're talking about, and I think it was Memphis that was sued.
Yeah.
And I want to say it was Comcast. I don't think it was AT&T, but
it was
that actually led to
it
actually led to the FCC saying actually internet is a necessity. It is no longer
that was the big commodity that came out.
Something. But they were like, no, this is wrong.
Yeah. But the one thing, speaking of the FCC, that we can rant about. A little bit political is this week they went through and started pushing forward for the FCC is beginning to kill net neutrality. It's like the
Oh,
Open
good Lord.
Freedoms of Internet Act or whatever. They pushed through, made the ruling to push it through and start creating a bill that will officially end net neutrality. And that is something that nobody should be in favor of because it benefits absolutely nobody but
No,
the ISPs. I'm
no.
sorry if you are in favor of net neutrality. Anyone out there watching that, you are ignorant and you need to look up what exactly you are looking at because basically you're looking at shooting yourself in the foot. There is
Yep.
absolutely, this is one of the things I say it's political, but everybody can agree on it, but the ISPs.
Guys,
This is
to
ridiculous.
prove a point, I will say this. Technically, yes, I am more conservative in a lot of things.
Mhm.
That's my view. Whatever. That's fine. Okay. But I'm telling you right now that net neutrality we need because if we don't, the NSA problem,
Yeah,
the WannaCry problem, that's going to repeat itself
yeah.
over and over and
And,
over
and
again.
I want to stand back. One of the things that makes me angriest about this does like the fact that net neutrality is going forward, the destroying net neutrality is going forward, irritates me enough as it is. The way that the FCC has gone about doing this is what irritates me the most because there are people, love John Oliver or hate him, depending on your political views. He made the net neutrality, he made the net neutrality segment, and he went on, and millions of people watched it, and millions of people went to his website, and millions of people signed this, the comments section on there against net neutrality, saying, don't take it away. Net neutrality is a wonderful thing. We need to keep it. Millions of people did this. It's a huge spike. And the FCC turned around, they locked down the comment section and said, we don't need to listen to this anymore. And they turned around and said, well, we don't need to listen to the internet. The internet doesn't know what they're talking about. I don't remember the exact quote they used, but it was something to the effect of like, oh, just the internet doesn't know what they're talking about. They don't need to have a say in this. And that is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. That is one of the biggest examples of the government not listening to the people. And in a nation, the government is by the people, for the people. That is one of the absolute stupidest things I've ever heard of. And it's embarrassing. It really is.
Well, it like I said, you don't really want to get political, but I will say I have always viewed it as a conservative, always viewed it smaller government,
Yeah.
bigger people's freedom. There's a reason for that because if when the government starts coming in and they put regulation after regulation after regulation, look at what the mess we're in now. All the corporations make
Yeah.
money and nobody else can do anything because there's too much stinking regulations that they can't make money. So you don't even have small businesses anymore. If the FCC were to do this, you know how many mom and pop internet companies would be just bye bye?
Yeah, and I mean, I agree and disagree with you to a certain extent. Regulations, depending on what it is. Internet. As far as the internets go, I've always been very much pro free internet. People are like, well, it's the Wild West, and that's kind of the way it should stay because the problem is you can't regulate it because it's around the world. This is something you cannot regulate. This is something that everybody has access to. There are certain things I think you should regulate in the world. If I get in my car and go down the road, I want to make sure the brakes are going to work. But at the same time, as far as talking about regulation, as far as the internet goes, it's one of those things. I get certain regulations, but the internet should certainly be one of those things that is not regulated. They're very, very loosely regulated.
Well, here's the thing. Whenever I say small government, a lot of people are like, "Oh, well, you're talking about anarchy." No, I believe that the government has to be there. There's a reason why they're there. But what I'm saying is, technically, regulation makes sure people are safe. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
NSA completely worthless.
Yeah.
Get rid of them. There's no point in having them. Reason why is because we already have the military for that. They're already doing it in the Air Force. We don't need these extra stuff. We don't need extra regulations. This needs to stay.
The regulation argument's always been a very strange, and because I've had the same argument with other people. I absolutely agree. With what you're saying. There are a lot of regulations out there strangling businesses. But at the same time, there's a lot of these regulations that I would rather have in place. But going back to, like I said, the internet, and I agree with you, there's government gets in the way of a lot of things. And I agree with you that yes, the military is already taking care of this. The Air Force is already taking care of this. This is something that if the Air Force is already taking care of, policing the internet, or not necessarily policing the internet, but, just defending people. I'm trying to figure out how to word this. Just doing the NSA's job, we don't need a reboot of that. But going back talking about net neutrality and regulations in the FCC is trying too hard to regulate the internet. The internet does not. It needs to be very, very loosely regulated. I understand there should be some regulations, but there's a lot of. They need to be more pro-consumer at least.
Here's what I think they need to do, and you may agree with me or you may disagree with me. instead of doing to get rid of net neutrality, what they need to do is go to the IPs and say, hey, where is all this money that we sent you, billions of dollars in the past 10 years, and not everybody is connected? Where's this money at? And I'll tell you what will happen is they will find a lot of fraud.
Yeah.
They will find a lot of irregularities. They will find all kinds of things that should have been done, but it hasn't been done because they've been allowed to get away with it. The problem is they don't need to try to police the people. They need to go to the stinking company. That's the problem.
I absolutely agree. We need to pay more attention. And this is such a problem in the United States. And this is something that, you know, regardless of your political affiliation, you can agree with. The companies have reached a point where they are bribing people essentially in politics to get what they want. That is something that it's clear cut. You know, it's not black and white. If you pay attention to politics, if you look into it, this is how the government works nowadays. Is the companies pay the politicians, they pay the government branches, and the government branches do what they want. You know, the ISPs want net neutrality dead because that benefits them. That means they're able to control the speeds of the internet and whatnot, and there's nothing that benefits the consumers for that. Nothing at all. You know, they'll sit there and try and spin it that way. There is absolutely nothing. If you even just look at a Wikipedia article about this for 5 minutes, you can tell there is nothing in this that's going to benefit the people. The government needs to stand back and start looking at the companies and holding the companies more accountable than the people. Because a lot of times the companies are what's hurting them, hurting the people more than the people are hurting the companies. The people are hurting the government.
Well, and here's where you know my point is. A lot of people may not understand that the reason why I say you hold the companies responsible, because I'll give you an example. AT&T and Comcast, just those two companies received billions. Horrible companies received billions of dollars from the U.S. government to improve and expand their internet IP, and they have done nothing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's disgraceful. I mean, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Look at the ISPs outside of the United States. Look at people around the world. You know, look at like Denmark. Everybody has gigabit internet. You know, stuff like that. The United States, which is one of, if not the leader in technology, should not be here. You know, we should not be the ones sitting here with 20, 30 megabit internet speeds, or in your case, satellite internet. They should be running gigabit lines, fiber lines all around the nation. We should have the freedom to choose from more than one ISP. I have 2 ISPs available to me here. That's AT&T and Charter. You know, there's some places where Comcast is the only viable option. You know, it really is a shame, and we need to stand back and work to improve the internet for the people, because when the people start paying for services that they care about and are important and are done well, you know, the more people are going to be willing to pay for it, I guess. I can see what I want to say in my mind, but I can't get the point across, so it's sounding like gibberish. Just ignore it.
Well, what you're basically saying is, you know, whenever you please the customer, the customer is going to keep that company going. And here's the deal. Here's the thing. A lot of people don't understand this. Technically, now corporalism does not work, but capitalism does work, because it doesn't care about your feelings. It doesn't care about anything. It cares about money. Yeah. And the fact of the matter is, if the customer's happy, they're going to keep paying that company money. Whenever they get unhappy, guess what happens to that company? Yeah. Bye-bye company.
Yeah, but the problem is, when we say, you know, that in theory, that's how it's all supposed to work. You know, the company's bad, but the company fails.
Corporalism doesn't work.
Yeah, and that's unfortunately, you know, that's the world we live in now. You know, it's like companies should fail. Comcast, you know, judging by the fact that if you ask anybody who has Comcast, do you like Comcast? They're gonna say, God, no. I wish it was dead. That company would have been dead, you know, 3 days after it started. Unfortunately, it is a mega billionaire company that has a stranglehold on the FCC. The same thing with Verizon. You know, you ask anybody, I've got Verizon. I hate Verizon. I don't get signal at my house. I miss text messages and phone calls every single day. I barely get, you know, 3G unless I drive 30 miles out of the way. It's horrible. Do I still pay them $200 a month? Yes, I do. Do I still, you know, are they still a massive corporation where one of their lawyers is in charge of the FCC? Yes, this is true. That should not be true. You know, we live in a kind of broken world. You know, that's just vague political commentary. But you know, we need to be working toward making the companies more responsible, more accountable for their actions than they currently are.
But see, that's what I was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Capitalism does work, but the government needs to hold the company responsible
Yes.
for it, not the people.
Yeah.
That's the whole. I mean, that's
We've
the whole
developed
reason.
too much of an attitude of where the government's willing
Yeah.
to defend, and like I said, I'm trying my hardest not to get super political here, but the government is standing
No,
back
I'm not either.
they're absolutely blindly supporting these companies through thick and thin, and that is absolutely not what should be happening. And that's something that I think a lot of people can agree on. You know, we need to not blindly support companies just because they make a lot of money. You know why they make a lot of money? Because they have monopolies, because of the fact that they're in control of parts of the government. That is why they're making so much money. If you give people another option, these companies will go out of business.
Yeah. Well, the problem is they also get government bailouts and funds.
Yeah, that's another thing that's absolutely ridiculous. We're pouring all these monies into these companies that should be gone by now. You know, it's a shame.
But
it's horrible.
with that all being said, trying to bring it back to tech, not get too political. With that being said, I absolutely commend SpaceX for trying this.
That is a company that I can get behind.
They're privately funded.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
Yeah,
the CEO is pretty much paying his own money into this company, and that's a good thing.
And the thing about SpaceX is, do you know how many? There's so many companies that Elon Musk owns. You know, between SpaceX and Tesla, and I think he's still involved with PayPal. You know, he makes billions and billions of dollars. They have a lot of money to fund this kind of thing. That is the keystone example of a successful company doing something that the people like, that has a very big market share. You know, not necessarily a monopoly, but they have a very large market share in all of their industries. That is the example of how these companies should be run. You know, if they come out and say everybody can have access to SpaceNet or SpaceX Internet or Skynet, whatever we're calling it, you know, I'd be totally on board with wanting to get that.
But you know what though, the one thing, and this is where a lot of people don't understand, SpaceX doesn't get any government funding whatsoever. Period. No. They get none.
They are government approved to operate on United States operations, like the ISS. They're approved to work with ISS and work with NASA. They do not receive money from the U.S. government, though. They are completely privately funded.
Yep, and look at the advances they are doing. Yes, technically rockets have blown up, but look what they're doing. They're able to move on and do other stuff.
Yeah.
And one thing is because they're allowed to actually be a company.
Yeah.
For once.
Yeah.
So. When I say company, I mean a true company. They
don't have as much oversight, which is a good example of, you know, how regulations can strangle, you know, look at, I mean, you look back at things like the Apollo program, you know, a lot of their ships blew up. They were still able to complete it, but they were able to complete it on a much longer time frame. Now, you know, like I said, there are some regulations that are good. There are some regulations that are bad. SpaceX really, you know, to tie all of this together, SpaceX and Elon Musk's companies are really a good example of good companies doing good work without any problems, without major oversight, without major issue. And I'm absolutely for it. And I'm absolutely pro just about everything Elon Musk is working on right now.
Well, I'll tell you right now, and you know, I'm still kind of old school. I like my gas cars, you know, my gas burners, all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, if I had to pick a electric car, I wouldn't buy anything else but a Tesla.
Yeah,
that's what they're designed for.
Yeah, I'm not as honestly, and I'll say this, besides the fact they're god awfully expensive, you know, if I had the money, I'd totally buy a Tesla. And part of the reason I wouldn't right now is because you know, the only charging stations in my entire area between here and Columbia, South Carolina, is at the local airport. That is the only place I've ever seen a charging station for an electric car here. And you know, like I said,
I have a worse one.
That is because I live in the deep South, and I live in the middle of a cornfield. That being said, you know, I imagine if I lived in a city, you know, somewhere bigger like Atlanta, I've seen a lot of them in Atlanta. Last few times I've been in Atlanta, you go to the bigger cities like Charlotte or Columbia, you see a lot more charging stations. But you know, if that became a more regular thing, I'd totally be down to buy one. You know, I think they're cool. But anyway, tell your story.
Here's what I think a lot of people are confused about. Technically, the batteries are getting better because they're able to start improving the batteries, which means it lasts longer. But they are figuring out how to put generators in there that might use water. If they were able to make a generator that could operate on salt water without corroding, do you realize how many vehicles we could have?
Oh yeah, I am absolutely pro finding that kind of technology. You know, there's no negative. That's another thing. There's no negative benefits to it. or no
No.
negative issues with it, because I know a lot of people out there are like, but global warming is not a real thing, and it's like, well, regardless of that, this kind of thing can help make the world a better place regardless. There,
Well,
electric
so
cars and stuff like that, and alternate energy is a fantastic thing to have, and I certainly think we should be researching into it, and that's part of the reason why I'm pro Tesla. But
well,
do
and here's the thing the way I look at it, and like I said, I'm not going to get into the political
Yeah.
side. Forget the political side. I'm going to
Yeah.
get scientific. Technically, global warming, as far as the political side of it, is complete nonsense. But the Earth goes in stages, right? It goes cold, then it goes hot, then it goes cold, it goes hot. It's been doing this for however many years you believe. Okay, but the fact of the matter is, this is not. It's not to just do it about global warming. It's actually trying to improve human lives. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
If we,
I mean,
were able to get a car that you can just plug in and move on.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the. Oh god, I thought I crashed for a second there. The internet went kind of wonky. Yeah, I mean, having green energy and stuff like that. I'm absolutely pro green energy and all that. I'm not pro that for political reasons. I'm pro that because of the fact that, yeah, I agree, it can help improve people's lives, and especially in more crowded places. Look at this goes back to another thing with regulations. If you look at places like Shanghai or these Chinese cities with billions of people living in them, and they've got all these cars, it's just smog. You can't see 3 feet in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you can look back at pictures of New York and San Francisco from the 50s and 60s before there was more regulation, there were less cars and stuff like that. There was just smog and you couldn't see through it, and that affected people's health. I mean, people lived in these cities 50, 60 years ago, they're going through cancer and stuff like that. But if we can get to the point where we don't have that kind of emission, and even looking at the effects that gas has caused with oil spills and the destruction, the rivers and stuff getting full of all these toxins from oil mining and stuff like that, this is going to affect people positively. On top of the fact that it's going to save people a lot of money because you're just sitting there charging your car at home for significantly less than a tank of gas would cost.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people need to understand too is like right now the reason why you don't see a lot of electric cars is because it's not mainstream.
Yeah.
If it were to become mainstream, every gas station would become a charging station.
Yeah.
Every place you look, it would have a charge somewhere. So it's taking time. Technically, yeah, it's taking time. But
it's like Ryzen. It's in its infancy stage right now.
Yeah.
It's becoming a new thing. I think within the next 20 years we'll start seeing more and more of this. And like I said, I'm absolutely for it. I think it's a neat thing if the price ever comes down and it's able to match what I want to get out of it. I'd be totally down to get one because I think it's cool. Not just the design, the technology involved in it, but it definitely has a long way to come so far as infrastructure. Because they're not charging stations out there.
I think if they were able to figure out a way to make a generator that could work well off of water, and would sustain the batteries, I think that would actually be a more beneficial reason. Because you wouldn't have to use actual drinking water. You could technically just walk out there to a pond and fill up your vehicle.
Yeah, I think that kind of thing would be
filter.
cool. And that was they're working on a design. I think this is back in the 80s. They were working on a design for a hydrogen powered car, but the problem is they basically made a hydrogen bomb in a car.
Yep.
Which, from my experience, isn't the best idea when you're building a car to put a hydrogen bomb in the trunk. But it's stuff like that. It's good. It's a good idea to have some kind of renewable energy or easy to access energy like that in a car. I think water, if we could find a way to make a car run on water, salt water, that would be perfect because, water is one of the most, salt water especially is the most viable resource to get access to right now. There's water everywhere.
Well, you think about this. What is the most healthiest thing that we can eat if you want salt? It's sea salt.
Yeah.
That's one of the most healthiest benefits that you can get. Technically, I don't like sea salt because it tastes funny, but I'm saying it's still health-wise it's beneficial for you. So, if you think about it, what if they were able to find a way to pull the salt out of the water through this and just dump it off into this little reservoir and you pull it out and pop it off on your little sandwich, whatever you need. And
just get out driving down the road, eating your sandwich. Go out there and open the hood. I want some salt on this. Yeah, I mean it's it's kind of a funny, jokey concept now, but I can see something like that happening down the road. We're making great advancements. A lot of people, regardless of your views on it, a lot of people are looking at alternative energies mostly because of the political side of global warming. You know, a lot of people are starting to
Yeah.
see this as a real issue, and it's driving a lot of people to research more into green energy. And you know, like I said, regardless of your views on global warming, this is going to be a positive benefit for everyone. You know, it's kind of
Yeah.
like net neutrality. It's good for everybody to have green cars that don't have all these issues or emissions or having to drill for oil everywhere. So that's great. And you know, like I said,
Well,
Elon Musk's a cool guy.
I do have some. I do have some personal tech news. As I was
Right
saying
now.
beforehand, I actually bought these studio earpods,
Oh yeah, you were talking about
and
that. You got some fancy studio headphones, earbuds now, earpods.
yes, these things will blast your ears, man. I'm telling you, I have you at 50%, and you're still loud in my ears.
That's
That's
great.
how much. And here's the thing: they're $12 on Amazon.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, $12. I'll
Who
send
are
you
they
the link,
by?
but it's $12. Some Chinese company, I think. Yeah,
uh,
I've not had a problem with them because I
yeah,
thought I thought they would be like Apple
yeah,
earbuds or AirBuds or whatever they call them. So I thought it'd be like the same quality as that. I put these in. I'm like, holy crap!
yeah,
These things about blew my ears off.
yeah. I've never been a huge fan of headbuds, headpods, earbuds, whatever the hell they're called. I've never been a huge fan of them because they get tangled and I lose them and they go through the washer a lot. I bought a few months back. I bought one of those Bluetooth neckband ear pod things that I keep under my shirt collar from time to time, and I was actually pretty impressed by the quality of those. I've never really been a fan of Bluetooth audio or audio over Bluetooth. I've had a couple Bluetooth speakers and the audio has never really impressed me, but those are definitely that put a positive spin on it for me because the quality on those they were very good. And on top of the fact that they were just they were comfortable earbuds, they did good canceling sound outside of them, and they were very high quality. And I was happy with them. Those are the first pair of earbuds I ever bought that I was actually excited by.
So let's go show you this real quick.
Yeah,
These are, you can see how deep they go,
yeah,
and they have this massive driver. I don't know if you can see it very well, but
yeah. I
there's
can
a
see it.
massive driver inside there. That driver, it's on both ears, and these are designed. They have a special weight down here. I accidentally hit my microphone. They have a special weight right here, and they have this little piece, and it will let you know at where you can set it on your ear.
Yeah,
So whenever you do it, you actually wrap it behind your ear like you're supposed to, technically, and it just slides over, and you can feel the metal piece hit the top of your ear,
huh,
but it's comfortable, and this weight keeps it down there to where this doesn't get tangled, and
huh.
it stays separated. These are I'm telling you, for being a Chinese product, bear in mind, a Chinese product, these are the most fantastic $12 I've ever spent
Huh.
on headphones, earphones, any of that kind of stuff. I love these things. Matter of fact, I use them on my phone now.
Yeah, I may have to check that out. I mean, like I said, I've never been a huge fan of earbuds. I've always had a problem with it. Most of the 9 times out of 10, I'll stick them in my pocket, forget about them, and they'll go through the wash. But they've just never found any that are comfortable until I came across that LG pair of Bluetooth earbud things. And I've been pretty happy with those. Those are just standard earbuds, not anything fancy like
Yeah.
you have with the bezel and the resting against the ear and all that goodness. But I like those. I'll bring them with me from time to time when I go out, or if I'm driving somewhere,
Well,
I keep them with me. So if I get a call, but that's pretty neat. I might have to look into those.
one thing, and I'll say this real quick. One thing a lot of people are thinking whenever you say earpods or earphones,
Yeah,
they kind of just sit a little bit inside your ear, and they sit on that certain flap, and that flap begins to hurt over time.
yeah,
These actually set down inside your ear.
hmm,
So they're actually inside your ear, pointed towards your eardrum. That's the reason why they're so effective. And if, as you've seen, you see how deep that goes
yeah. I mean that goes in there a
whenever
good
you're
little
looking at it.
ways.
Yeah. And you have different little sizes that you can put on here. I have the smallest ones, and they fit my ears really well.
Yeah,
And I'm telling you, like, noise cancellation, great. I could barely hear anything. I had my microphone in my playback. Now I finally figured that out. But I have it in my playback, and I can hear myself. I can
yeah,
hear everything. I can hear the game. I can hear you. I mean, there's just a lot that I've realized I have missed using a cheap pair of headphones.
yeah,
And I'm like, why did I not know about these before? You
yeah.
know?
Yeah, I still need to get a new pair of headphones. Well, definitely, I'll have to look into those. Check out the $12 earbuds because that looks pretty fancy.
Yeah, they're called the Studio Ear Pods, I believe is what they're called. Because they're fancy. They're
Yeah,
studio.
studio. Yeah, I might have to look into
Is that
those. Because I like these headphones, but I need a new pair. These are just my cheap $20 Sony headphones. I'd like to have a fancier pair. So I may look into those.
so? Do you have any personal updates yourself?
Not that I'm aware of. I've played around. Dude, I know we talked about it a while ago. I played around a little bit with Linux. I'm taking a Linux class to get Linux certified this semester, and because of that, I've launched a couple Linux installations onto a virtual machine. I've been messing around with those, and I've been looking into more and more. I think I may, when I get my new hard drive, set up a dual boot situation on my desktop with Mint, and have Linux as my just kind of day-to-day operating system and use Windows when I need to stream or game or something like that. Because I've been from what I've seen of it so far, I've been pretty happy with Mint. I know that's the one you recommended to me, and I've been pretty happy with being able to mess around with that. I think we're running Mint, Red Hat, and Ubuntu Server, which really isn't something that's necessary in day-to-day computering.
I can't remember. I think you could do this on Windows. I think once you actually boot into Windows,
Yeah.
you can actually switch in between operating
Yeah, you can
systems.
set with Windows
There's a way to
10,
do it.
you can set it up to dual boot to where you can natively switch between the operating systems very smoothly. And that's the only reason I'm looking into dual booting is because of the fact that you can do that with Windows 10. And I may do that. I may clear off some space on my solid state drive, or I may wait till I get a new hard drive and go ahead and dual boot Windows 10 and Linux Mint probably and play around with that, because I'm happy. I'm definitely happy with just what I've seen of it so far in the virtual environment. And it's straightforward and simple, and I like that kind of thing. So, just as an alternative to being dicked over by Microsoft every day.
Oh yeah, no joke. I actually have some personal channel news.
Oh,
Me and I think Ribbit's actually talked to you about it. I officially got Arc, and
oh God.
believe me and Rivet are going to get on an Arc server together.
Yeah, Rivet.
So that should be
Rivet's
coming
got
out.
a server that I don't know if he's got it set up already or he's gonna have it set up soon. He's been talking about it for a while, setting up an Arc server that a lot of people can come and play on. And I haven't played that game in a long time. I think I actually took it off my hard drive to put something else on it, but I may have to reinstall it, mess around with it a little bit, because that was a interesting game.
I'm sorry, I got excited for a minute. There's a reason why I got excited, and I'll tell you why. I got my new freaking hard drive.
Oh yeah, that's why we missed last week, wasn't it?
Yes.
That was your excuse.
Yes. Yes. Well, actually, with trying to get it installed, and plus I ran out of time. Plus, I also had to go to Arkansas for graduation stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, I don't know what Seagate done. They've done something in their quality production, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, this thing is awesome. It is fast. I got 2 terabytes of space. And
that
it is so
that one
quiet,
was
I can't even hear it.
the hybrid drive, wasn't it?
Yes, and it's the new one. It's the new I think it's called FireCuda.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that's what it's called. There's a 2 terabyte SSHD. Dude, I'm telling you, it's worth it.
I've got a question, because I
$100.
haven't technical side. I haven't actually looked into this. How does a hybrid drive work? Because I know it's got elements from both, but how does that work exactly?
Technically, it's hard to explain, but I'll try to not go too technical with it. To make it simple, technically what happens is the SSD works as kind of like RAM for your CPU.
Right.
So it pulls information and hold it. And then whenever you need it, it will send it out because it's faster.
Okay.
That's how it does
so it's got the hard disk in it, but it's also it's basically a hard drive with RAM. A standard hard drive, mechanical hard drive with RAM. Okay.
Yeah.
Because that makes sense now. Because I hadn't actually looked into those. Because the way, for those who don't know, the way hard disk drives, mechanical hard disk drives, and solid state drives work is 2 totally different horses. Completely different. One is vastly more mechanical and magnetic and whatnot. But yeah, I hadn't actually. I've heard of them and I've looked into them. I know they're reasonably priced. I just haven't bit in, and I never really knew how they worked. But that's
easiest way to explain it's kind of like, you know, your RAM and your CPU. Your
Yeah.
CPU is constantly receiving information,
Yeah.
processing, and sending it out. Your hard drive is receiving information and sending it out. What happens is whenever you start something up, it will seem like it will take a little bit,
Yeah.
but what's happening is the SSD is just pulling a ton of information real quick,
Yeah.
and it's sending all that information. And then once you start going, like for example, a game, whenever I first boot into like Fallout 4, we all know the loading screens. Bethesda loves them. I hate them, but still, Fallout 4. The first time you have a loading screen, you're like, well, it's about like a hard drive.
Yeah.
The second time, you're like, why did that take only like 3 seconds? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm gonna
So
have to check that out then,
interesting.
because like I said, I wasn't entirely aware of how that worked before, and that's interesting. That's interesting. I think there's a good analogy there about, oh God, where'd the video go? There we go. There's a good analogy. You know, it's just like RAM for your hard drive. That makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
That makes perfect sense. And yeah, I'm gonna have to check one of those out then, because I've never actually, like I said, beyond seeing them on like Amazon and PC Part Picker, I've never actually bought into one or looked into one that much. But yeah, I definitely need a new hard drive, so I'll have to look into that.
Well, I mean, what they do working together, they'll actually help improve the life of each other.
Yeah.
Technically.
Yeah.
So, you know, whereas the hard drive is constantly having to do everything, now I can just send it straight to the SSD, and then the SSD takes the brunt of the work of transferring the data. But then, you know, the hard drive has time just to lumber around technically and just, you know, do its job.
Yeah.
So I will in the future, when I finally do my Ryzen build, yes, technically all my operating system and my all my other stuff will be onto a actual SSD.
Yeah.
But I'm not getting rid of this drive. This is going to be my gaming drive because there's
Yeah,
no point.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to look into that, because if I get a new drive, it's just gonna be a regular mechanical hard drive. But having that hybrid part on there, that sounds like an interesting idea. I like that. I'm gonna have to check that out.
If you're watching on my channel, because I'm actually recording it, I can't stream. We all know the situation, but I will leave a link down below of the hard drive and these earbuds, and I'll also send you links in Discord. So
yeah, I'm gonna have to check that out, because I'm interested in both.
Yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much everything I've had.
Yeah, I don't have a lot technically to talk about. I got a external hard drive, but that's not fancy.
It depends if you're doing your editing on the go.
Yeah, I have. It's nothing special. I just got a Western Digital hard drive. I need something to put my photography stuff on, and I just got a Western Digital terabyte drive. It's nice and lovely, and it's got USB 3, and it transfers at a reasonable rate. So I was all happy about that, just because I was using 120 gigabyte.
Do you have any games?
Do you have
any games that you're interested?
Not that I've been playing 7 Days to Die with some real life friends again, but other than that, I haven't been playing a lot of games or looking into a lot of games.
Yeah, I seen you play GTA 5 last night.
Yeah, I was playing GTA 5 with them too. I've been hanging out a lot more with some real life friends that I haven't talked to in a while. So we went on and played GTA 5 until the wee hours in the morning yesterday, because I no longer have to do anything important on Fridays. So I stayed up to like 2 in the morning. That was fun. I need to. I had some technical issues with that game. I think they're somewhat fixed, because I want to stream it, because it's a fun game to stream. But it was really broken.
You got the new drivers, right?
I don't think so. No, I haven't, because the update thing popped up today, and I remember thinking I need to do that. I'll probably update them after this.
You need to install those.
Yeah,
you need to install those, and I'll tell you why. Because there's a lot of fixes on that even with the 200 series that was fixed.
Yeah, so, I haven't. I keep seeing it pop up. I've been meaning to install it, and I'm glad you reminded me of that, because I actually do need to install it. I'm really bad about putting off driver updates until everything breaks down entirely. But I need to get on that, because the game's always been kind of broken with my R90 or my 290. I don't know why. So
yeah, mine's fine.
I don't know why. It was fine with my 280, and then I got my 290, and I was just like, haha, no. And buildings disappear, and the road just kind of removes itself from existence every now and again. But last night, it happened once or twice, but it wasn't as bad. I did a stream once where it was just horrible. So
yeah. Well, like I said, there's that driver update. You probably need to you'll need to update, and also you might
Yeah.
look at your CPU, make sure there's not any Intel updates as well,
Yeah, I
because
haven't.
sometimes it's a CPU.
Yeah, I don't think GTA 5 broken wise. It was this way when I was still using my FX with my R9 too. So I don't know if that. I don't think it's something to do with the processor, but I need to check in updates with that anyway. I need to go through and really do a full system. Just have a day where I go through and scrub it really good. I update everything and scratch all the ugly stuff
Yeah.
off. So
If anybody wants to know how to do that, all you got to do is right click on the Start Windows, and go to the Device Manager,
mm-hmm.
and it will actually have little arrows that will tell you, or errors, should I say, that will tell you if there's something that needs to be updated.
Yeah, you need to. Everybody should go through and check all that stuff. It's easy to do, and it saves a lot of grief. And
Yep.
IT people being called.
Well, if you notice though, have you really noticed though, everybody that works in IT or has something to do with IT in general, most of us do not like to do anything with our personal computer.
No.
And the reason is because we do it all the time. So we're like, when we go home, like, I ain't gonna fix. For example, I put in
everything.
a $40,000 server, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
My system at home, what is it? Maybe $500 at most.
Yeah, it's like I've got
So-
it's like I go in and I work on stuff and everything's flawless and everything works so well, and I come home and my computer's like sounds like gears grinding. There's the fan in the back of my case, when I turn it on I have to hit it so it stops grinding and speeds up. I mean, that's the state my computer's currently in. That's IT people.
Sounds
in a
like
nutshell.
bearings out.
Yeah, I need to either
Sounds like
replace or
dirt
take it
now.
apart. It's been every now and again. It's like once a week I'll turn it on and it'll just let out this ungodly grinding noise. So I just beat the back of the case until it goes normal, which isn't a good thing to do to computers. But I'm a professional, so I'm going to do it anyway.
Oh yeah. Well, it's the old saying: if it can't be fixed by slapping it, there's no point in trying to fix it.
Exactly. There you go. If I can't fix it with duct tape, it's unfixable.
Exactly. But yeah, man. I think that's pretty much everything I've had. It's all the topics I had,
good
we've had
solid
today.
almost 2 hour episodes. So yeah, hopefully we'll be back on track with this. Next week we should be back on track. I'm hoping to be on track, and tomorrow we should be on track. Me and Ribbit should be doing Crusty Salt, hopefully, and everything will be nice and peachy, hopefully.
Oh yeah. Hopefully I'll be able to tune in.
Yeah, so we should be good. Don't forget your phone again.
Yeah, I know. Because actually, that's how I watch y'all stream. I don't watch it on my computer, so I
God.
watch everything, all y'all stream off of my phone. So, but yeah, that's pretty much. And I think everything should be good on Fridays from now on, because I think everything's finally settled down.
Yeah, everything. I've had a kind of a chaotic last month or so, but things are finally starting to settle down, thank God. So I should be back with that, and I should hopefully be back to streaming. I said this like the past 3 weeks in a row. I should be back to streaming this week. I'm gonna try my damnedest, because everything should be nice and peachy. This week was a little bit more chaotic than I had expected. So,
Well, and we'll say this: we are going to try. Me and Chris talked about this quite a bit. We are going to try to, if we can't make it on a Friday night, maybe meet each other on a Wednesday.
Yeah,
or
we're
Thursday
gonna try and do
pre-record,
pre-recording
so-
if we can, so we don't miss so many episodes. Because we've been doing this show for like 2 months now. We only have 3 episodes out, so we're gonna try and pre-record because this is a live thing. And we were gonna try that last week because Friday you were gonna be gone and I was gonna be gone, and we tried Thursday and that never happened. So it's kind of hit and miss. So just kind of bear with us. Just bear with us. We'll figure something out.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Other than that.
Yeah,
that's all
other
I
than
have,
that,
man.
thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks for, it's been fun. Hopefully we'll be back next week. If not, the week after that. If not, then the week after that. If not, then we're probably never going to do this again. So we have been defunded and shut down by the NSA. Anyways, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Hope to see you again next week. Bye.